We are live. We are live. We are back. I know the episode number now, 13. Episode 13. Feeling good. How
Okay,
y'all
yeah,
feeling, fellas?
Feeling solid, feeling solid. It's been a solid week, Excited to talk about FinTech today. Switching it up a bit. I think it's been a lot going on in regards to the economy. So excited to dive into this podcast, provide some insight from my own personal experience working in the tech field for over 10 years now. And just being able to, share what we've learned being in the tech field and also what's going on in the economy. But Rod, how you feeling?
Oh yeah, I'm feeling good, man. Blessed. We in the middle of the summer, so the year is more than halfway through. So a lot of time to reflect on, personal goals, the goals for, us at TBC and just reflecting on, what's going on in the world, but also like how the economy is and what that means financially, right? Like some of the things we've seen in recent weeks is like Bitcoin hitting a high of 110,000. I think most recently 115,000 hit that threshold, and then we see there's things like rising unemployment rates from a terrible job market right now. So just being mindful and just aware of like all the different things going on, and just being able to take it in so that you can make the best decision moving forward for the rest of the year and pretty much for like the next 5 to 10 years to come. So, I'm in a good space. A lot of reflection, a lot of gratitude, man. A lot of gratitude.
Love that. Love that.
Yes,
How you
sir.
feeling, Carl? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Kind of in a similar mind state. I think y'all are mad serious. I'm pretty serious too, for sure. But it's also been enjoying the summer. It's been fun. This year in general has been just a good time, right? Like went to a whole bunch of different concerts, right? Like traveled a little bit. I'm out in LA, so the weather's kind of like similar every single day in general, but summertime does have like a slightly different feel to it. It's a little warmer. It's a little bit more going on. So, of course, wow, you brought up good points. Bitcoin, as like a somewhat long-term investor in Bitcoin, I've had a little bit of money in crypto for about like 3 4 years at this point. So I'm not one of those folks who got in like 2010. I wish, but just seeing like the growth of that has been cool. The stock market has been up all-time highs, and it's interesting because this year has been a roller coaster for the market. I remember when the tariffs conversations first started at the top of the year, and the market plummeted, right? Like it went down a ton, and then it's rebounded. So that's been cool to see, just with like the long-term portfolio as well. A whole bunch of interesting IPOs. I don't know if y'all peeped, but Figma, the
Yeah.
design software, yeah, they went public yesterday, and the stock jumped 300% on the IPO day. So just seeing stuff like that has been interesting, and I just think about like the employees, honestly, who were there early, and all the money that they made, and then the venture capitalists, like the Andreessen Horowitz, who invested in a Figma and got like 20,000% return from that investment, from getting in early. So just like all of the stuff that's kind of going on in the market, as well as just like having fun. I'm done the summer for sure. So I'm feeling good. Can't complain, for real.
Hey, Kwame, you brought up three things, right? And I'd be remiss not to bring it up to our viewers. One, you had mentioned like how like early in the year there was a lot of fluctuation. If anybody's was out there and you've been subscribed to us, we talked about, I think it was around towards the end of Q1 or even like the beginning of Q1, what the election would mean for crypto and the markets, right? And some of the things we would have expected to see as far as it being up and down. I think we talked about a possible rebound. So if you want to revisit that episode, please do. And then you also brought up something else, but I think I'm gonna come back to it. I think you guys both mentioned that well, shit, all three of us now have tech backgrounds, and even though my experience would only be about 2 to 3 years in. Before we get into our topic, could you guys briefly like touch upon like your tech experience and in the field? Because I think it's gonna be very relevant to what we talk about with these financial apps and fintech.
For sure. I can go first too. Just give like a high level overview. I've been in tech for 10 years at this point, kind of similar to Ackeem. So as soon as I graduated from college, shout out to Syracuse, I went
Big shout out.
right into tech, and I've done a whole bunch of stuff. I started my career at Accenture doing consulting, and always describe it as just doing a bunch. So I worked in 11 different on 11 different projects across 6 different industries at Accenture in both the public as well as private sector. Public sector being working in the federal government, right? Supporting like the USPS, for example, or like the Department of State, for example, with all of their technology needs. And then also in the private sector as well too, right? So working with the Airbnbs of the world, the Hewlett Packard enterprises, etc. So did a whole bunch of work across a whole bunch of industries. I would always say my functional focus was always program as well as product management within all of those roles. And then from a technical perspective, artificial intelligence and data analytics, right? So I really appreciate the experience at Accenture because I got to try a whole bunch of different stuff and like figure out what I truly enjoyed doing, what type of industries that I like to work in. And I remember Airbnb was a client back in 2019 before they went public, before IPO. And I just love the culture there. Like people was wearing whatever they wanted to work, right? Of course, like worked with a whole bunch of smart people, right? People who understand like how to grow a business, how to hire, like just all of those things. People were experts in their field, but they were also themselves. So it made me want to transition from consulting, which was cool, but it was very white collar, right? Like it was very just a typical corporate environment, but I wanted a place where I can learn and grow my business acumen while also just being me. So I left consulting and I went directly into industry, and I worked at Meta for about 2 years on a fintech product. It was actually a digital wallet that leveraged blockchain instead of traditional fiat currency to be able to transfer money internationally. And right now, sending money internationally is really expensive, right? Like it takes forever to get there. But one of the benefits of blockchain is being able to send money as easy as sending a text. So there was this product called Novi. They ended up changing the whole strategy of the project after we launched, which is why you may not have heard about it. They didn't put much marketing dollars behind it, but I spent about 2 years doing that. And then I left and went to Stripe for about a year in another program manager role, supporting finance. So making sure that all of the finance activities for accounting, for tax, for treasury on the back end were automated to help support the company as it grew and scaled the revenue. And then after that, came back to Meta in another finance program manager role, supporting the expense side of finance. So all the procurement related activities, all the invoicing, all the contracts, all the sourcing related enterprise tools, supporting building out those. And then I'm now currently at Airbnb again in a payments role, basically helping the business to grow by enabling things like local payment methods in certain countries, right? For example, like Ireland, they may leverage Ideal to make a payment versus a traditional like debit or credit card, but enabling functionality within Airbnb in different markets to allow folks to pay in a way that they're comfortable to help go to business. So done a whole bunch of work in tech in both like the finance, payments, fintech space. So I'm definitely hyped about today's topic for sure. And sorry if I was long winded. Like I feel like I don't know the interview question, right? Like I have the same spill that I'll give when it comes to the experience. So yeah, my point if I was long winded, but just like a little bit about what I've done.
I mean, it's good because that context is going to come in huge for the rest of our conversation, right? Is for people to follow. Because I say that specifically because when a lot of times before I get to you, King, a lot of times when people hear fintech for the everyday person, they just might think that means you do finance in a technology space. I used to hear that a lot, like, oh, so you do fintech, and I'm like, no. But I have knowledge of it, and we use it every day, right? So I mean, that context is great. And Keem, I'll ask the same of you. Like, what is your experience in the tech field as well, for our viewers?
Yeah, I'd say similar to like Kwame, coming right out of college, coming right out of Syracuse, working at uh Dell, right? Working at Dell. And prior to actually it being Dell, it was actually a merger that happened, right? So I was working at a company called EMC, and they had merged in 2016. So I was there for about 2 years prior to the merge. So EMC had merged with Dell to eventually form like what is now Dell Technologies, right? So Dell actually had acquired a few additional companies, and it was the largest IT merger in history when it happened. So being at the forefront of that and kind of seeing the different digital transformation that was happening, right? Within that space with Dell and these other IT companies coming together just to form like a powerhouse infrastructure was pretty cool. And then it also kind of gave a lot of insight into the products in which the financial technology like industry is using, right? And all that powers behind the big companies, the Fortune 500 companies that you see, like from understanding like big data and how exactly they're leveraging like, and I feel like they've been using artificial intelligence for some time too, right? But it was just at a very, very smaller scale, right? It's not what it is now, but they, of course, with the powerhouses that they are, they have access and capital to be able to get to be able to leverage, that technology. And I think it really started, I would say, um allowing me personally to see, like I mentioned, like the digital transformation that was happening. Being there, I was working there as a senior business analyst, working cross functionally across teams, pre-sales teams, sales teams, procurement, working with the IT team, working with the legal team, and just getting a sense of not only the direction of where the company is going, but how exactly it's adding value to the Fortune 500 companies, especially from a financial technology perspective. So that's kind of where my career started, and then it's just been working at different tech companies in similar roles where it's like a combination of business analyst and project management, which has been good. So working at banks and actually seeing and being in the fintech space, working at MUFG Bank um, as a contractor, and getting exposed to the analytics from a data side of their different products and services that they're offering, and seeing exactly how, like I mentioned, artificial intelligence is changing things, right? So working on a dashboard back in 2016 in Tableau versus working on a dashboard in 2024 in Power BI, right, where you could leverage artificial intelligence to be able to build these very dynamic dashboards and, and really provide some insight to the executive leadership team. It's definitely something I would say I have seen have grown over the years, and being able to really drill down into like the data and create a story that can benefit the company for the next 5 years, 10 years. So that's kind of like the space that I've been in. I would say for my role, just been like a combination of both like a business analyst and a project manager throughout my time, and then working at Hearst right now as a technology business analyst, essentially working on an application optimization project. So looking across all the 11 business units at Hearst, it's about over 300 plus companies, and kind of getting an idea of their application ecosystem and how exactly they could potentially rationalize some of the applications by 30% in the next 3 years, right? So right now I'm building dashboards in Power BI, leveraging ChatGPT to be able to help with analytics and figure out, how many project management tools do we have across multiple business units? How exactly can we rationalize and have not only the business unit save money, but the organization as a whole? So that kind of sums up like what I would say my IT background has been, and how it's kind of been a lot of exposure, I would say, to the fintech world, and how the digital transformation has happened from where it's been, I would say, in the 60s. And I think we'll dive more into like what exactly fintech is, but where how far it's come too, right? I think we'll talk through like the timeline from like the 60s to now, and how like the products and services in the fintech space has not only benefited the consumers, but also companies as a whole. So just kind of wanted
Right.
to provide some insight. So definitely a good question there, Rod, in regards to providing the audience a little bit more about our backgrounds as well.
I mean, because if we're not doing this for ourselves, right? And I'm a big person on, and I think we are as a whole and as a brand, like, you know, not just talking from out of nowhere, like being backed by research or experience. So I'm glad y'all could provide the audience with their tech backgrounds as well, just to know how deep it runs. And I mean, you even gave a great segue. Briefly before I talk about that, like even with me, my tech experience didn't really begin until my graduate studies, which was around 2022. I was going back for my MBA, and then I decided to double down into a dual program and do a master's in data science and analytics. During that year was my first interaction with the Georgia FinTech Academy. Shout out to the Georgia FinTech Academy. I was introduced to it by a woman named Dr. Levita Pullins. And we did a program together. I was a graduate assistant in the Office of Black Student Achievement. We wanted to do a program. TBC was involved. We ended up doing a fintech panel with FIS Global, just talking about what that future looks like. And this was back in 2022. So, just bringing things full circle. Shortly after that, I was at Intel for about 2 years. Intel is a leader in manufacturing semiconductor chips, and I was mainly on the cost side, managing like whenever there were any specs about any future products, they come to my team or me straight up and were like, "What is this going to cost from an assembly and die prep standpoint?" Um, and being part of a bunch of savings projects that it was a lot. But when I told people about this or like what I do, they were like, "Oh, you work in fintech," and I'm like, "No." So segueing into like what our topic is, right? Talking about fintech. What exactly is fintech? Fintech is actually short for financial technology, and it's pretty much how you use technology to either improve or expedite financial services for consumers and businesses. So, like, we already mentioned a couple of mechanisms in which this is used. Kwame, you mentioned Novi. We talked about blockchain. I think we even talked about crypto. Crypto is sold on Coinbase, which is a investing platform. These are the type of things that would be considered fintech, right? Cash App, Apple Pay, these are all fintech innovations, right? So in the simplest of terms, it's really making managing or moving your money faster, easier, and making it more accessible. But Keem, you talked about how things have changed. Like we talked about AI, but like let's talk about some of the first and early on fintech um happenings and evolutions, right? No different from like let's say the cotton gin or the railroads being developed. What were some of those things that took place early on? You mentioned the '60s for like finances in the financial tech space.
Yeah, I would say just thinking about like how money is now like stored, right? If you bring it all the way back, like when banks were first created, people were going physically, walking into the bank, you know what I mean, right? And like having to, um, pull money and, save money. And if they wanted to invest, it was, or even like when it comes to stock market too, right? Being able to call, you have to call your broker to have them submit a specific trade. You have to wait a specific time, just like all those little different components has changed, all right, so much where I believe PayPal came out in 1998, right? And that kind of was like one of the first biggest like fintech products where people are able to send money online, all right? And even but prior to that, online banking, I would say, right, was something I think early 1990s that became widespread, and just started changing the dynamic as a whole from like banking services, right, as a whole. So I was just thinking like early on how just the dynamic and how like the transformation from a digital perspective has truly like evolved in the fintech space. And then to where we are where we are now, right? It's just these big leaps that has happened over the decade, over the past decades, and just seeing just like the timeline, like we mentioned of the fintech evolution. So just kind of wanted to bring it back there. I'm not sure, Kwame, if you wanted to add anything there.
Nah, 100% agree. I think I also think about products like Robinhood, for example, and you brought up because you talk about stock a lot on this platform in general, and some people are afraid of the stock market, right? Like work so hard for their money, right? Like feel like investing is gambling, in a way. And then before a platform like Robinhood, the barriers to entry for stock investing was just difficult. Like you had to have a relationship with the broker to make trades for you. They would charge a broker free for every transaction, which was costly and expensive, right? As far as prior generations, to those specific individuals, they may not have invested in the market, right? So, as far as even being able to have the ability to have that relationship with a broker, it's difficult and hard. So, I think even like fintech like Robinhood, you can literally download an app and you have access to be able to trade within the market without any transaction costs. To buy the stock is something that is amazing. It's something that is evolutionary in general, right? Like you saw just some of the additional retail investors, right? Like just everyday investors who got into the market during the pandemic, right? Like with extra stimulus checks, but products like that. And I know Robin was kind of controversial as well too, because even with some of the meme stops like in AMC, stopping trading for like those specific stocks in general. So it's not perfect. I'm not sitting here and saying that it's the perfect platform, but I think the access component that a platform like Robinhood enables is something that is really cool. You got crypto on there as well too, so you can store everything, stock and crypto, in one specific place. So I think that's really interesting. And then the impact that they had on the market in general, right? Like you've seen different financial services companies like a TD Ameritrade create platforms like Thinkorswim to compete with the Robinhood, right? That way, folks can have access to the market without any trading fees in general, or like reduced costs for trading fees, right? So being able to have that impact, right, make investing way more accessible for folks is something that is really interesting. And then Rodney, you touched on blockchain. I think Bitcoin is something that people talk about a lot more, especially as the value goes up, right? Like saying like, yo, I wish I invested in Bitcoin back in 2010. I'll be retired by now. Just having that mindset in general, but the
Shout
back
out to the
technology.
scammers. Shout out to the scammers of the platforms.
Facts. I wish though, honestly, like I wish there was more conversation about it back then, especially in the black community, right? Like just having access to the information to be able to make that early investment, like all of our lives would have been really different for real. Not complaining, life is good in general, but
No,
yeah, a
definitely.
lot.
And to your point though, like the things we wish we knew about, right? You mentioned how like back in the day, like you had to actually submit a formal ticket to the stock market, or you had to. A lot of stuff was hand in hand. But you know that accessibility and is gonna come in handy when we finally do our generational wealth convo, because I know that's something like the term kind of irks me the way it's used, because I think it's used in a very loose way. But just thinking about like the accessibility, right? A lot of these for the conversations we now have because of some of these fintech innovations are going to be commonplace for our next generation. I think because of the lack of technological advancements that, let's say, our parents went through, right? Like in the 1960s, I think the ATM was created. Before that, you actually had to go to a bank. And if you think about that, before the 60s or even before the 70s, we know that's like civil rights era, right? So let's think about all our parents. Um, if they were in America at the time, you didn't have the same access, so you don't have the same, like you're not having the same conversations because the access is so limited and you're protecting yourself in so many different ways, as opposed to what these advancements have allowed is the increased accessibility regardless of race, regardless of income, regardless of all the other barriers that existed prior decades, right? So it's just interesting to me. Like I'm looking at the timeline now of like the different technological advancements that happened, and I'm like, how much harder was it before that for like our family or other families or other people who come from other communities that may have also been challenged in that way. So it's just always interesting to me in that way. And it made me want to ask, like, what's one innovation that you feel like you couldn't even live with, like one of these fintech innovations you feel like, oh, I would be cooked if we didn't have this, right? I think for me, I'll just use the most recent example. I'm gonna go Cash App in like the Apple Pays, only because I was at this restaurant. I was over the weekend, was on the boardwalk on the beach, a lot going on. Me and my friends, we come off, we're walking in the neighborhood, we stop at this black owned restaurant. Actually, my father knows one of the owners. So we go there, they only take cash and Cash App. So no cards, whatever. And it's like, oh, I got Cash App. Let's make it happen. I don't have no cash, but I got cards, but I got Cash App. So I just think about that and how quick you can make something happen with those type of apps. So what about for you guys? What's one innovation? It could be old or new that
Mm.
makes things a lot easier.
I would say for me, if I were to say, I would just say online banking, honestly, because I don't got time to be going to the bank every time to see what the balance is. You know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
that would be kind of. And then especially, the bank has a certain time that it closes. So if you get off work at a certain time, right? If you get off work at a certain time, you don't catch the bank, you don't really know. You feel me, right? So just that little, it might be real small, but like it allows you to kind of be like that much more financially conscious, right? Because
Mhm.
now you have access, direct access to how much money you have in your check-ins and your investments, you know what I mean, right? Like, and things of that sort. So I would say if I were to pick like one like fintech, I would say online banking.
Nah, that's
Yeah,
solid right there.
definitely. Yeah, I picked like the hottest ones, like Apple Pay, of course, like that came to my mind, and then online banking came to mind too. I think if I were to add, um, I used to use Mint. Mint, I used to love Mint just for managing finances in general, right? Just being able to have like budgets automated in Mint, right? Like it would send notifications about if I'm overspending in a budget. I love Mint for just managing finances. They got acquired by Credit Karma a few years, and then Credit Karma like integrated Mint into their own platform, and it's not the same, to be honest. Like it's kind of
Yeah,
trash in my opinion.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, but I've transitioned over into leveraging my online banking app. So I use Chase. That's my bank, and they have kind of like similar features within Chase, and it's just like a one-stop shop, right? Like one place I can go to like see how much I have in check-in savings, but also like managing net worth, right? Like managing growth for an investment, right? Like seeing if savings is going up, going down, right? Like just everything in one place, credit cards, mortgage, right? Payments, everything in one place. So just the online banking app, but being able to leverage the kind of like net worth or like personal finance feature within the Chase app. Like I use that a lot for sure at this point. So that'll probably be mine. But I agree with both y'all 100%. Those are probably like my top one and two. And then this is the third one in general. So
So then, in talking about like all these different fintech products, right? What are like what are the main things, or like what are the key points for you that make a good financial product or a good fintech product? And I guess I'll start for me. Something that is kind of undervalued, but I thought about it because of what happened with the T app. I don't know, y'all know the T app was pretty hot
of
this
course,
week.
bro. Yeah, see,
Um,
I'm crazy.
and they had two data breaches. Um, so for me, I think one where I'm not worried about my privacy and security, like those big institutions where like they make the investment in protecting their data. I would say that's one because it's like, with your money, it's the most sensitive and almost everything is electronic. So like you could lose your funds in an instant like this if all of it is centralized in one digital service, right? So I would say for me, strong security and privacy. Um, and then the other thing I would say is just the ease of like kind of making something go faster than it normally would otherwise, right? Like you had mentioned, like instead of me having to get up and go to my bank, I can just like type it in real quick, or it saves me time or money. So I would say those two things. But what about you guys? Like, what makes a really good fintech product or something that you feel like you want to use again and again?
Yeah. I would say for me, I would say it more than likely it's integration, right? Integration, I think, is pretty key because in these like budgeting apps and on your online banking apps, you can integrate multiple platforms, right? To be able to view like a full dashboard across everything. So similar to like what Kwame had mentioned too, right? Being able to see, you know, see investments, see like if you have a mortgage payments, see net worth and things of that sort. But like say for instance, you have Chase or Bank of America and you also have Fidelity, right? I think Fidelity offers like a component where you can integrate multiple bank accounts and integrate multiple investment accounts and kind of see like the holistic view of
Okay.
everything that you have going on, right? And then with the ability for the integration to do something like that, you can now see in what areas you can scale, right? So I'll say scalability is another big component too, right? Is you can figure out exactly um, what areas do you want to get better in, right? What areas do you feel like you need to pull back in, right? If you're spending a bit too much somewhere, being able to see and get financial advice, and of course with AI now they have integrated that too, right, into like the banking apps as well, right? Where you can choose to speak to a human, but the artificial intelligence like support agent is also able to facilitate a lot of the help that you potentially are looking for, which of course allows the company as a whole, the organization or corporation as a whole, to be able to scale a lot faster, not having to use as much human power to support these tickets. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I would say, right? When it comes to like what makes a good financial product is the integrations that the financial product can provide to allow the user to see more of a holistic view, and then how exactly they can scale and become even more uh, grow even faster, and then also become even more efficient, similar to like what Rod had mentioned.
I agree. Yeah, those were definitely top of mind as well. I think some other ones too. Notifications, that's another thing, and I think I don't know, it could come off as like super just straightforward and simple to folks, but let's say, and this happened, it's so annoying when it happens, but let's say a credit card gets like compromised, right? Like someone finds your card or gets a copy of it, right? Like just being able to get that real time notification from the financial services provider, the bank, like whoever it is, to let you know as quickly as possible that someone went and bought a TV from Best Buy with your credit card, and you can reply, yo, that was not me. Like, let's shut that down real fast, right? So that notification capability, and then especially like investment accounts too, like of course like Robinhood, Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim, just like all of the investment platforms out there, Coinbase, but being able to send like notifications for whether an investment increases or goes down. I do a little bit of like long-term investing, so like dollar cost averaging, right? Like just taking an amount every single check and putting it into the stock market, and then a little bit of trading as well. I'm trying to get better at the trading component. I'm not gonna lie, I've gotten cooked a few times with the trading, but I just have
Haven't we
patience.
all? Haven't we all?
I'm trying to have patience and just get better with it. But it's just cool with the long term investments, even though I don't plan on touching the money, right? Like I just want it to compound and grow over time, right? But just seeing like an investment go up, like after it announces earnings or if something happens, it's just like cool to get that notification. I go into the Robinhood app and it's like, yo, like I made $300 today in my sleep, right? Like that's always a great feeling. So I think the notifications component is a good one for sure. That comes top of mind. And then I'm just looking up some others. I was thinking about some others as well. I
I was gonna
think
say that
when
probably
it,
ties. I was gonna say that probably
yeah,
oh the notification. I was gonna say the notification probably also ties to like the security component. You know what I mean? Like the security and
yeah,
privacy component. Yeah, I would say like notification probably ties to, because they figured out that I'm sure like the security in these banking apps and like these financial technology apps are getting better too, because the breaches, right? Yeah, y'all brought up breaches, right? And how applications are getting breached every day, right? And there's like class action settlements going on because of these breaches and things of that sort. So I was gonna say the notification probably ties to like the security and the security and privacy of like the financial product too.
yeah. Just the last one, dashboards. I'll be looking at them. But just like especially with the budgeting apps out there, but saying, all right, for July you spent this amount compared to April of this year, right? Like you spent $500 more on eating out, right? So like the dashboards and being able to have those views to compare like 1 month to a past month, or my birthday's in April, so like looking at spending in April each year, right, and comparing that, like all right, next year for the birthday, like plan earlier, that way you can save some money, like just those type of things, like the dashboard and functionality just helps to one really just illustrate how spending is happening within the budgeting app, and then allows I think just everyone to figure out how to like course correct, make adjustments to make sure they're not like overspending, saving the right, investing the right amount, like all of that stuff as well. So I love the dashboards too.
Word, not, and that made me think. And that's a good point you meant on the visualization part, because you can, numbers. I know finance and numbers tend to intimidate a lot of people, regardless of what race or background you come from. Like, it's the weirdest thing to me that a lot of people are just intimidated by math. So like, just having that visualization and it putting it into you plain is great. And so let's segue us to our next part. Now, this will be the only time that the TBC podcast will be doing this, because otherwise we will be looking forward to having sponsors and partners with us. But since we're on the topic of fintech, I did want to take some time to just let you guys know out there, like, what apps that we enjoy, that we use in our everyday financial management. Like this time, I just want to put out there, and I know Kwame, you had mentioned a couple that you had really liked and are using. But I want to shed some light on one that is very helpful for me right now at the moment. Rocket Money. Mainly for two of the three reasons that we just spoke of, two or three of the reasons we just spoke of, and like what makes a good app. One, I love the visualizations in the dashboard. They allow you to categorize your payments. It has the integration, so it's integrated with your whatever cards you want or bank accounts that you want to monitor. It integrates with that, and you can categorize your spending. Even if it miscategorizes something, you can correct it, which I love because, of course, it's not going to be a perfect system. Um, and the notifications, like, your account is at this point. You just spent this amount on this. Like, I love their notifications. Just seeing it come across like the top of my screen, it's like, okay, I'm always, or at least not if always, more aware of what's going on with my money on a day to day basis. So I love them. Another one I'm using right now is Experian. Official credit score, official credit reports, and they have this very unique tool called the Experian Boost, where you can add your utility and streaming or any recurring payments that they deem viable to your credit file, so it instantly improves your credit score. So imagine if you could add your utility bills, that the payments you've never missed, or payments that you pay early, things that you've paid off on time, or it adds those things that otherwise wouldn't be on your credit report, and they uniquely have the backing of the credit bureau. So I really enjoy using those two. Again, right now working on my own personal finances as well. So those two are really doing it for me right now. There's some more, but I'll leave you all to it, to name yours as well for the viewers.
Yeah, I guess I
And
think
again, we not getting paid from the fellas, so we could keep it short. That's,
yeah,
hey,
I
speaking.
would. Nah, yeah, I'd say for me, like prior to jumping on the call, I did come across like an application that's kind of similar to like Mint. Like I think Kwame, you spoke a little bit about Mint and like what it was prior to getting acquired to Credit Karma, right? And we probably also had conversations in the background on potentially putting together something similar, but it's a AI like chatbot called Clio, and essentially it's like a
Yeah.
chat. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but essentially it's
Leo
like
before.
yeah, it's like a AI chatbot that essentially helps with your finances, right? So, similar to, I think it integrates through Plaid, right? And it essentially can quickly look at your spending habits, provide like high level insights into how you can potentially save. If you're looking, it asks you about any specific big goals you have and how you can adjust your budget, and just essentially like a personal assistant when it comes to financial budgeting. So. I think it won like a few awards at the top of the year too. Um, and I think it's something that I think a lot of folks are going to start to lean into, right? Because of course we could log on and check, you could check your accounts and things of that sort, but if you don't have like a go-to like financial advisor, right, and you kind of still want to be able to get insight on how you can take the next steps to be able to grow like that grow your wealth, I think that's definitely something to look into, and something I think has been pretty helpful for folks. Of course, if it won some awards, then it's definitely showing value to the consumer, right? And people are seeing the value in it, and probably also figuring out ways to not only save money, but to how to make their money make more money, right? Which I think is going to be pretty key for being able to build wealth. So that's one app that I wanted to mention, and I haven't really like played around with the application all the way, but I'm definitely going to check it out a bit more. Um, check it out a bit more and seeing why it did win some awards and what the value is that it can really add for the consumer. So that's the application.
That's a great plug. Yeah, I'm convinced. I'm about to go download that. I've been
I
looking
just
for
typed
like,
it in all the time when he was talking. I'm like, I
yeah,
highlight Cleo.
I've been looking for the AI impact on. I mean, I've seen some AI impact in fintech, but just like for the everyday user, like literally looking for an app like that. So. That was a great call out, Keem, for sure. Appreciate that. And then for myself, I mentioned a few already, just kind of like in conversation throughout the podcast. I guess to clear up Credit Karma, because and they know like the Mint users were a little disgruntled when like the acquisition happened and they integrated, like they were getting mad feedback comments, all of that stuff. But Credit Karma, been using it for years. I remember when me and Akeem were in college. It was probably like our junior year, and we were talking about checking the Credit Karma app just as much as we would like refresh our Instagram timeline. So yeah, and that was back in like 2013. So it's been 12 years of using Credit Karma on a regular basis. Of course, being able to assess credit score. They have like some cool features if you have all of your different things integrated within the app, like a car loan, for example, right? Like credit cards, just all of those things where they make recommendations to other financial services companies, other banks, other just businesses you can work with basically to like reduce interest rates that you're currently paying. So those features are kind of interesting when it comes to Credit Karma. And then I'm thinking about some other ones. I don't know if it's considered fintech, but like Redfin, I'm not gonna lie, I'd be on Redfin heavy. Redfin,
I'm not too
just
familiar, but I heard of Redfin.
yeah, for real estate, like I'll go into like a new area and I'll just be curious, like how much is a house in this area? Because enjoy the stock market, but also enjoy real estate. Would love to continue to grow the real estate portfolio over time. So just being able to do quick assessments to figure out like how much a house cost, of course, but also looking at the past sales history of a home and it having all of the history of the sales to track appreciation from a high level for those homes, right? It gives you an estimate on what the mortgage would be based on like the down payment that you'll put down. It's a whole bunch of cool features. So I definitely use Redfin a ton. The email updates, you can like add different areas that you're interested in buying, and they'll send you emails on a regular basis, so you get a feel for the market that you're interested in buying in. So I'm definitely a heavy Redfin user as well. But yeah, outside of the like banking app that I mentioned, and then of course like Chase, and then also the brokers platforms like the Robinhoods, the Charles Schwabs, the TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswims. I use Robinhood for more like long-term investment. The same for Charles Schwab, and then Thinkorswim. I like the technical analysis within Thinkorswim with the charts. Just being able to plot all of the indicators, the support and resistance, RSI, MACD, all of that stuff. Like I just like the interface for Thinkorswim a ton. But those are probably like my biggest go-tos in general when it comes to fintech products off the top of my head.
Hey man, I know the viewers are gonna definitely learn something because I just learned something. Especially with the Redfin, considering my next project, I'm definitely about to. I'm actually gonna download it as soon as we finish because I gotta look up that whole Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area. So damn, Kwame, good looking out. Our viewers ain't the only ones learning today, so this is fire. Um, but yeah, man. So I appreciate now that we got those spotlights out the way. I encourage everyone to do your research. There's a lot of different fintech developments and apps out there that you can use to apply to your everyday finances if you want to improve. Again, there are plenty out there. Find the one that works best for you. Like as Kwame said, like before Credit Karma took over Mint, he enjoyed it, didn't enjoy it as much. So like you'll probably have to try a few before you realize which ones work the best for you that you like that are to your taste. But now that we got that
I
out
was
the
gonna
way,
say
guys,
too,
and
Rod,
oh
Rod, can I add one? Can I add one real fast too?
oh
And,
sure, go ahead.
it's not the traditional fintech app, but ChatGPT. I'm not gonna lie, like just when it comes to doing investment research, like it saves so much time. I'll legit just prompt it like, all right, I'm looking to, create an investment portfolio that's worth 100,000 over the next 10 years, right? Like how much do I have to invest? This is my salary, right? Like this is how much I have coming in. These are my expenses. Like I'll enter in all that information and they'll come back with like a portfolio from me saying, all right, invest 30% into like ETFs, right? Like SPY, for example, or like QQQ. And then they'll say like invest the other 30% into tech, invest the other 20% into I want to say healthcare. Healthcare hasn't been doing the greatest, but like consumer discretionary, for example, and it'll give me a whole breakout of it. Or if I have a question about a company, I'll say like, hey, like how much money did Meta make in revenue last year? Like how profitable was it? Or just give me a clean, clear answer. So just like investment research, ChatGPT helps a ton. It saves so much time. So yeah, I use it for a bunch of stuff, but I definitely be using it for investments and like asking it some like personal finance questions as well too. So just throwing that out there.
Oh no, that's definitely good. Again, like AI is making its way into everything, and that kind of drops side next the last part of our conversation. Um, like what do we see happening next in fintech, right? Like you just mentioned, like the use of AI, right? A lot of there's a AI is pretty much the new internet these days, or at least it'll be what the internet was for us when we were coming up. So like, what are some other trends that you guys see coming up in fintech, right? I think for me, one thing that I see or that I have seen is more like seamless or like almost invisible payments. Not invisible, but like almost seamless. And what I'm talking about is I don't know if you guys have been to the airport or maybe you're a sports arena, but now they have these stores where you come in, you tap your phone or you tap your card, you go in the store and you grab whatever you grab, and then you leave and it automatically charges, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think the first time it happened for me, or the first time I interacted with was at a Suns game. I was still living in Phoenix, and I went to get like some snacks or water, and I kind of looked at the lady like, "Do I walk out the same time as him?" She's like, "Oh, like you're good." Like I'm like, "You sure?" Even though it led me to think like, what could be like, what if I didn't tap my card, or like, or all the type of different things that could go wrong or right. But I see more of those type of things happening. Like so, it's in they call it embedded financial payments or like seamless financial payments. Those are some of the things I'm seeing. But what are some other things you guys see that will like explode in fintech or just new trends in general?
That's a good question. I want to try one of them stores too. I know Amazon has like the Amazon Go stores. I don't know if they're still out there, but it has the same experience where you
They got them at the
look.
air. They at the airports now, bro. You going to Delta
That's fire.
Terminal or something? They got them.
Yeah, that's fire.
Yeah.
That's fire. I do think things are gonna change really fast, right? Especially with AI developing and growing as quickly as we're seeing. There's a lot of conversations about robotics. I don't know if y'all seen it, but like the robots that can legit just be in your house and like clean your house for you, which is crazy. It's like iRobot, which is really interesting. And then a lot of like talk about autonomous driving as well too. So self-driving cars. I've probably seen like Waymo driving around without people behind the steering wheel, which is mad crazy to me in general. But the point is, I think technology is going to continue to advance extremely quickly over the next 10 to 20 years. And those are kind of like technological advances outside of fintech in general, but just the way things are moving, I think things are going to change really fast. Fintech specifically, I think blockchain, I can see just more use cases being created and leveraged in the blockchain space, especially with stablecoins. You spoke about it at the top of the year, but just like the current administration, um, I think how crypto friendly they are, and even like the three bills that passed recently that caused like Bitcoin to jump like 20%, Ethereum jump like 20%. But
Mhm.
just the support of the current administration with crypto related things, I can see stablecoins being used a lot more. And a stablecoin is a cryptocurrency that's backed by like the US dollar, for example. So a cryptocurrency that's blocked by fiat or backed by fiat, I should say. But those use cases continuing to increase. And I remember describing it before, but just like the transformation of music, right? Like before we had cassette tapes, right? Like Walkmans, and then we went from that to the CD player, and then we went from that,
MP3s.
yeah, that to the iPod, right? And then from that to streaming, right? So I think money transforming as well too, going from the barter system before, right? Like having gold, silver, be commodities that were traded to actual like paper dollar that was backed by gold, right? Kind of where we are now, which is more like digital based money in a way, like being able to transact online, right? Like from an app. But just when it comes to like the back end infrastructure for money, being able to leverage blockchain rails and leverage like stable coins to transact, I can see that happening a ton. And I remember when I was working on Novi at Meta before, one of the biggest value props was being able to provide financial services to there's 1.7 billion people on earth who don't have bank accounts, which was crazy to me. I was just like, wow,
Hmm.
that's insane. But I can see stablecoins being leveraged to provide more access to people to be able to leverage digital money in general. So like that's one big like change that I can see. A bunch of companies are invested in their own stablecoin as well too. Like all the big e-commerce players like Amazon, for example, or Walmart are working to create their own stablecoin. So that's like one big change I can see happening over the next few years within the fintech space, and of course, like more AI use cases as well, like Clio. That was a good one that you brought up, Keem in general. But I am curious to see just more like agentic AI use cases as well. For me, it'll be cool to have like a nice little personal assistant saying like, "Hey, I want to book this flight for this trip in November. I want to go to Jamaica for a weekend," right? Like being able to prompt a chatbot with that type of information and having it be able to store your payment information and just make the transaction like that would be something that is super cool. So I can see that happening over the next few months slash years as well too.
And I would say just to add on that last piece that you mentioned, right, Qualm, that assistant, I think that also ties into. I'm not sure if y'all heard about the agent mode on ChatGPT or played around with it yet, but that's essentially
What about it?
what it can do, though, right? Yeah, because that exact same thing that you just mentioned is exactly what it does. And once it gets to um, the payment web page, then it messages and lets you know that it's time for you to enter your payment information. So it'll do all of that. You feel me? So like you said, like if you prompt it to say like, I'm looking to book a trip in November for a weekend, it'll do all of that. It'll book it, it'll select the weekend, and get you right to the payment web page, and then you pay, and then you're all set and you're good to go. So it already shows where like the technology is going. Everybody's gonna have like their own little personal assistants, you know what I mean, right? That become like their best friends, right? Just like how ChatGPT is becoming like that real personal assistant for folks, and I think that's definitely something that we're going to see continue to transform not only the fintech space but just multiple industries as a whole, right? So I'm excited to see that, and I would say like in regards to like what else we'll see in fintech and just related to like the blockchain spaces, decentralized finance, right? So allowing just a regular everyday person to be able to send money to each other just seamlessly, right? Without having to leverage banks, right? Where we essentially are acting as the banks. And I think that transition is gonna be something that's gonna allow that's where you're gonna see like a different level of financial education begin to happen as well, right? As that becomes more familiarized. Um, Within the consumer base, right? I think the technology is still being worked on right now, and essentially will allow peer-to-peer lending and borrowing, right? Which, like I mentioned, removes the bank and allows the individual to become their own bank. So that's definitely something I think is going to begin to pick up, and then we'll see multiple things like yield farming and staking going on when it comes to blockchain, and just different ways to be able to make money with cryptocurrency, leveraging blockchain too. So I think it's a lot of big things that's going to happen in the fintech space within the next 5 years. All right, within the next 5 years. So by the time 2030, like just seeing the big changes that happen, because even from 2020 to now, we see how AI has kind of transformed the digital space as a whole. So I'm interested to see what happens in the next 5 years, and a little scared of what's going to happen in the next 10. I'll be honest with you, right? But excited nonetheless, right? Excited nonetheless. So that's what I would say. I'll mention that I think the DeFi is going to be um, very monumental once the technology gets that much more sharper, and also once the people get that much more educated as well.
I agree.
Hey,
Supposed to be in the
hey, King.
Jetsons. Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
Nah, man, you talk about you talk about being excited and also concerned. I would just say for me, my one concern is that with the digitalization of money and like our currencies, there's a hyper dependence upon electricity systems. So I just think of like, you know, it's important for our viewers and anybody, right, to just, they say always diversify the portfolio. And I think it's so important because, like, one day physical cash might not be worth anything. One day these crypto coins might not be worth anything. Do you have some gold? Do you have some silver? Do you have a house? Do you have, I don't know, a machine that produces thousands of units of anything? So it's like, I would just encourage everyone, like, no matter what the trend is, just continue to diversify because you never know when something is no longer going to be the thing. Like, if we had an EMP attack and they shut down all the electrical systems of a given country or a given region, you can't access all those digital platforms that you want. So it's like,
Facts, too.
for me personally, I'm gonna keep some stuff in a vault that I won't disclose where or be too specific on, but I definitely want to have a different variety of assets because I don't know. The world is exciting as it is. It can also be scary. I think you got to be prepared for both ways it goes. So I just want to encourage, diversification is always a thing whenever you talk about finances, guys.
I agree. It reminds me of that Netflix movie. What was it called? I wonder if y'all know what I'm talking about. It was
Zero
called
day.
was it Zero Day? It was either that or like the day after tomorrow. It was mad Teslas like crashing into each other on the highway. It was like an internet breach that happened. Oh my gosh, I have to look this up right now. Like, but it
I
reminds me of
gotta
that,
watch
Rod. Bro, all right.
I just want everybody to stay woke, man. Like
that.
everybody stay woke, man. Like
So I said that. Yeah. So I
yeah,
said the next 10 could be a little scary, you know what I mean, right? Because the pace at which it's moving is something that, like I said, it's exciting because it's like, like the productivity jumps up a lot, right? But also, like you mentioned, Rod, the use of electricity also jumps up probably 4 or 5 times as much now, you know what I mean, right? Because all of that requires a lot of electrical power. So if something go down, you know what I mean? It's like, and we're unable to access your bank account. You're unable to access all these things from a technological standpoint for just a couple of days. But you know how much money gets lost? You know what I mean? By these big corporations, you know how much money goes down the drain, bro? So it's
yeah.
like
Facts.
it's definitely concerning at the same time. But like you said, I think the best way um to be able to be prepared for that is to diversify and also to pay attention what's going on from within the economy. You know what I mean, right? Just to kind of get a heads up. But things like that, like you said, EMP, like that, you can't really like when that's gonna happen. You know what I mean, right? Like that's just like that gets to happen at any time. You never know. We cooked, right? But
Books.
you know. But
I'm about to buy some gold
yeah, right.
coins,
Get a
something,
generator,
100%.
right? Yeah, it's
Facts.
like, all right.
Facts.
Yeah.
And the movie was called Leave the World Behind. Julia Roberts is in
Leave the
it.
world behind.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's fire. Highly recommend it for sure. I was mad entertained,
Yeah,
so just throw
Teslas
that out
is
there.
crashing. Nah, I gotta check this out. What's going
Yeah,
on?
it was good.
Well, guys, we are pretty much at the top of the hour. Like we always in any other episode, we just want to give a few shout outs, and final takeaways. Special shout out to Dr. Levita Pullins and the Georgia FinTech Academy, down in Atlanta, Georgia, partnered with Georgia State and the university's system of Georgia schools. Really appreciate them for my introduction into the fintech world and all that they've done in support of my education experience in this field. Um, but yeah, definitely wanted to give them a shout out.
I was just gonna mention before we wrap up, man. I had started out as a mechanical engineer in school, right at Syracuse, and then I made the transition to the technology side of the technology side of things, and I think it was the best transition that I could have done because we've seen how much technology has changed within the past 10 years. So to be in this space is very exciting, and to see where it's gonna go and to be able to add value. While that's happening as well is pretty exciting. So, shout outs to Syracuse for providing that education. You know what I mean? Definitely appreciative of that.
That's facts. I'm thinking, yeah, shout out to Syracuse. I echo that 100%. I'm thinking who I could shout out. Shout out Chris Persona. He's a managing director at Accenture, and I remember I was between jobs, right, like working in the FinTech space, and he has mad experience, right, like director level, big Fortune 500 company, right, like kind of similar age, right. Kane Fleet, honestly, Cartier ring, like nice watch on. I'm like, yo, do you enjoy what you do? Like he worked in finance, but like the risk and compliance side of finance. And for anyone who has like insight into like the day to day for that, it's not the sexiest thing to be honest, right? Like it's mad spreadsheets, right? Like it could be a little
That was
black,
my very
black
first job, bro. It's not entertaining at all.
at
Very
all.
mundane.
Yeah, and I remember asking him like, "Yo, do you enjoy what you do?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do." And I'm just like, "What's your why? Like, what's your motivation? Like, what's the thing that keeps you going?" And for him, it was being able to take the money he's making in his career and put it into his own personal passions, right? And for him, that was real estate, right? So he's just like, "All right, like with every check I get, right, like this is an opportunity for me to grow my portfolio." So he worked in the finance space in a way. We talked about fintech a lot during our conversation, but he helped me just to figure out a why for my career in a way, helped me to evolve it. So just shout out to Chris. That's one thing I just took with me for the rest of my life, right? Like being able to take the money I'm making from corporations, of course, like help business impact, right? Like help the company to grow, help them to save costs, like all of those things. But just having that deeper why behind it all is something that definitely keeps me going. So shout out to Chris for sure.
No, that's dope, man. Always remember your why out there, folks. Thank you for joining us for the TBC podcast. This is Rod, Kwame, and Ackeem. Be sure to don't forget to like, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what fintech product changed your life, or what fintech products you like to use, or maybe another topic that you would like to hear us discuss. We're always open to it. Follow us on our channels on Instagram, visit our website. Um we got the pitch competition coming up soon. So if you are a small business owner looking to grow your business, this is our third year, fourth.
Fourth year.
4 p.m. All right, third.
Fourth,
We not at 4 p.m. yet. This is our third year with Neo Tribe. So if you want more information on that, you can reach out to us directly, or again follow us on our sites on all our platforms.